Of course, the corruption cases, certain people from certain areas were saying that we were targeting them. Now that we've moved to issues of revenue and tax evasion, certain people want to impute that we are now, having finished with a certain community, now we are targeting another community. I mean, it doesn't work that way, and it is not. And it is based on evidence that is before us, and we're going to table it in court. And once the investigations are complete on that front, you will see KRA officials being prosecuted, and not only at the low and mid level, but also the highest level, in terms of even commissioners that we are looking into investigating. Once we have the evidence, we are satisfied, we'll prosecute them.
Mm-hmm. Well, he might go on record as, or in history as the DPP who really took the most of cases to court. But let's just take a look at what he's been doing with tax evasion cases. In the case of the DPP versus Keroche Industries, of course, you see that he has taken to court the director, Tabitha Karanja, and the other director, Mr. Karanja, as well as the firm itself. And they are being accused of 14 billion shillings in terms of tax evasion since 2016 until 2019. There's another gentleman by the name Humphrey Karaoke, who is the proprietor of WOW, that is Wines of the World, as well as Africa Spirits, and he's accused of evading tax up to 41 billion shillings. So when you look at these cases that are now taking shape, talking about since 2016, offenses that were committed since 2016 until now, what does it mean in as far as when you look at the system that there has been, what has been so difficult to prosecute these cases as soon as they happen in the current Kenyan system?
You are talking to me?
Yes.
Yes. No, thank you. I think it's really shocking, especially for Kenyans. 14 billion tax evasion. Mm-hmm. We had systems in place. We had legislations in place. What were we doing about it? You know, those are the questions maybe ordinary wananchis are supposed to ask. And I think, as you've said, DPP is doing a lot in terms of really prosecuting cases. But I think it's good, actually, maybe you start early enough when you have facts and evidences to prosecute somebody, to do it as early as possible. Like when you said you have more than 100,000 pages of bundles to be taken to court, mm-hmm. and a number of, witnesses to be arraigned in court. I mean, those cases are going to take forever, yeah? Yes, they are taken to court, and DPP is doing a lot in providing that particular evidence. What Kenyans and ordinary Mwananchi want to see, mm-hmm. as we've said earlier, mm-hmm. how fast or how can those matters be fast-tracked to make sure that matters are concluded? And those who are behind it, 14 billion, 41 billion, is not little money for Kenyans. Mm-hmm. And that is why we are having challenges in terms of raising revenues. We need to seal those loopholes and make sure that we have concluded those matters as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. If we delay those matters, of course, we are going to lose on everything. Secretary, if you look at the people who are tax evaders, it's not the middle class, it's not Mboga, these are tycoons, these are business tycoons. 14 billion for the Karanjas and another 41 billion Kenyan shillings for Humphrey Karaoke. What begs the question is that these systems, Kenya's systems, are they there to favor the rich in Kenya? Do they work for the rich?
Well, the rich know about their existence, understand them, so they know where to block. In the name of these so-called brokers or cartels, mm-hmm. there was a lot of that going on. And then that's why at times you wake up or you get an email, or when you want certificate of compliance, you're banged with such heavy taxes that you've never known about, maybe ever since, maybe some even were being given when they were in school. So those are the things that there were some people who are playing around with some figures there. Mm-hmm. So those are the people, and I think now the current DPP and his team know who they are and what they've been doing. And I think it's a deliberate target. Mm-hmm. For a long time, people knew them, but nobody had the courage to come forward because of that issue of protection. Eating with so-and-so, it's my stomach. Nobody cared about the economy. But right now, the way we are, the government knows they must tap and look for all the money that they can. Okay. The resources are limited in the economy. Mm-hmm. So now I think nobody is, as the DPP says, is a no-nonsense person.
Right. Can I just say that
what we see happening now, and I'm really happy that the DP is going to the core of the problem, because remember, Tabitha does not work with KRA. Humphrey does not work with KRA. There are people who are employed within KRA to actually ensure that they collect or ensure that everybody pays tax. Okay? So if Tabitha is not has not paid 14, is lagging behind with 14 billion payment in her taxes, she must have been working with people within KRA. And this takes me back to when we were fighting the riparian war, where we have NEMA officials who are actually tasked with doing the job on behalf of the government. And they go ahead and give certificates of compliance to people. And when it comes to bringing down buildings, it is the end user, or it's the people who, the investors who suffer, yet the NEMA officials who are given that authority and mandate to ensure that there's compliance slept on their job. So now when you see the DPP actually going to the KRA staff, that is really in order, because Tabitha could not have done it herself. The rot was right from within KRA.
So, Gladys Shule, you know, we were just talking about the numbers, how the DPP needs to be a bit more strategic with how he presents the cases in court. This specific one for the KRA, 80 officials, 80. How would you go about it?
First, I wouldn't charge them jointly. I would charge them separately, because then that way the case can go much faster. And I'm sure each of them were acting individually when they were dealing with the people.
Even if the matters are overlapping.
Yeah.
Yes. And then also there's other ways when you have that type of case. I mean, you look at the Akasha case, but they did in the US. They showed the Akashas the evidence against them. The Akashas themselves decided to plead guilty and give evidence to the state to be able to catch other people, and then they were given a lower sentence, even though it's 20 years. So that is sometimes some of the strategy that is applied by prosecutors in order to appeal this. But I must say this, KRA is the guilty party here. I find it very hard to believe that there can be so much tax evasion, especially in the alcohol industry, because the way the system works, KRA has cameras in the brewery. Did you know that? That is the system that exists. So they are counting the bottles as they move. So the question I should be asking myself, why KRA slept on the job? So first of all, the top heads, the people in charge, there is a commissioner in charge of income tax. Those heads must roll. Even if you get 80 junior officers, you must go after the senior people, because it means whoever is in charge of that department has failed. Number two, I know that there has been some progress, because I know we passed some regulations recently that made sure that the appeals against the amount of tax you should pay is no longer done at a devolved level. It's been centralized, because what was happening, they were cutting deals on the ground.
Okay.
And I think I can say, I think that is one good thing Jiraini did before he left office. So, and that's why I said the fight on corruption is multi-pronged. You've got to deal with the institution that is responsible, one. You've also got to deal with the legislation that is required in order to be able to fight corruption. So, KRA, I think I want to see the commissioner in charge of income tax going home.
Are you hopeful that this money will be put back into the economy, or that's that?
You know, it's in dispute now. So, I mean, so we need, that's why I'm finding that, how did KRA not know about it for all those years, 2016? I mean, today, as an ordinary citizen, I can't miss paying my taxes even for a month.
And so, of course, when you look at all these matters, if you look at other jurisdictions, you'll see people, even if they evade tax, there is always an alternative dispute resolution mechanism without necessarily having to go to the judicial system.
KRA has a tribunal.
Is the environment so hostile that it cannot entertain such kind of an arrangement, so that if you have a dispute with the Keroche Industries or Humphrey Karaoke, you can sit down and agree what is the truth, and then you go ahead and resolve it?
I think we'd even get better results and actually be able to get our money back if we went that way, you know, because this might be a long drawn-out case in which the 14 billion will not actually be recovered. But if you went through that tribunal and agreed, you can actually get some of that money back.
That's why I had something that Tabitha Karanja said in her statement, which went out. She indicated that she had not been given an opportunity, or that the KRA officials had not come to discuss with her. Okay, that would be interesting, because it is at that stage where you tell the person you owe this much tax, and then you give them so many days to pay it back. So it would be interesting to see whether that was done, but also whether it even the dispute went to the tribunal, because KRA does have a tribunal. It also has an appeal system that needs to go there, and so this one I can say KRA failed.
Right.
That's what I'm asking.
And tax evasion has been going on in this country for many years.
Six times
it's
now.
been going on. I mean, historically, everybody knows that KRA officials are bribed in order to let you off on taxes. That is a known fact. In fact, the fact that we've taken so long to be able to catch them, but it has been happening.
6 times now, Kenya or the KRA has failed to hit its target. But Judith, then what begs the question is the role of the private sector in Kenya in winning this war on corruption, because these two examples are not people who are in civil servants. These are people in the private sector.
I think let me answer that question, because when the issue of Keroche came up, I'm sure you have heard Tabitha saying we have paid our tax and we have clean bill of health. That was the first day this matter came on media. The following day, you have seen her arraigned in court, which clearly means they were not accepting that they were evading tax. Clearly, what is coming out, it's because of corruption, and it's KRA that has failed on carrying out its responsibilities. And this is simply because of corruption, nothing else. Yeah?
And that is why I'm asking Senator Sijeni. So we are in this situation that so many cases in court, and definitely the concerns they are raising in terms of very slow wheels of justice, you don't see the convictions. Is the environment so poisoned that we can't have alternative dispute resolution working in this country?
No, they do exist, and parties opt for them. In fact, nowadays it's more of a tradition. You go to court, especially the civil court, you'll be asked whether you've tried to do the alternative dispute resolution. In fact, the case will even be adjourned and deliberately referred to some mediator, arbitrator, or whatever it is. Even within, in fact, from a long time. In fact, now there's extra emphasis on mediation, alternative dispute resolution. So most of the time, KRA would always, I'm not their lawyer, but the little cases I've done against them, there's always, the outreach to the other person. There's always some letters, some exchange, and they do visit, especially for these big business people, they visit the premises. So even you're told from within, this is what you have been doing. Before now, even you have to go to their offices. And they do call you for meetings, for mediation. You try resolving them within their offices.
Right.
If it fails, that's when they refer you. So that has always happened. But I think at times this shortcut and big head or something,
Sam,
thinking that you're above.
In answering your question, what is more juicy? To show that Tabitha has not paid 14 billion and she's being taken to court and da-da-da. That's juicy, yeah? And shows that we are working, isn't it? But it will not give us back the money as quickly as going through the tribunal would.
Right.
You could choose the other way. Tabitha has not paid her 14 billion. KRA can go into negotiations or tribunal with Tabitha and ensure that that money comes back, despite the fact that it's quiet.
Right.
Okay? So but when you choose, it depends on actually what do you want. Do you want to get back the money into the economy, or you want to look like you're working?
What do you think the DPP wants?
I think in some of these cases, it is a show of might and arm working.
Wow. Okay.
That's what it is in this case, because it is not going to yield us the results that we want to have.
But someone has to do the work.
Yes, it's not going to, he's not going to yield us the results that we want, yes?
Okay, okay.
Because there's an alternative that can actually give us the results. But we choose not to do it and go the hype way, which will not be as effective.
I want us to take a look at the feedback before we can take final remarks on this topic. That what you've been saying on Twitter as well as on SMS line by shooting us at Citizen TV Kenya. If you have those, can begin to look at David Psalmist. He's saying that we need as a country to learn how to maintain what we already have. We have resources, plenty resources God has given us, but what's being generated from it goes to few people's pockets rather than the whole country.
This is still on Twitter. Remember the hashtag is Daybreak. Mogo, you say for Kenya to benefit from the proceeds of the Turkana oil export, both county and the national leadership must win war on corruption and must have in place proper legislation that will protect our oil exporters and ensure that the locals benefit at a given percentage to avoid conflicts.
Engineer Lazaro, quite very regular in giving us feedback. The law is very clear. The president shouldn't be warning lawbreakers. Kenyans are expecting action, not tough warnings. Corruption has reduced this nation to be like a war-torn country. Is that so? Right.
Still, some on Twitter, you say, I summarize our GDP will still grow dismally, even if we are now exporting oil. If corruption has not been weeded out, Kenya and Kenyans may not achieve much.
Who else do you have? Francis Kigondo, 5% is more than enough. Of course, they also get infrastructural advantages, and they still get 25% and are still part of the 70% that is emphasizing on who owns the oil is the problem that affects the African countries. We must view our resources as national assets. Do you have? Well, we have SMS on 22422.
Yes. Remember, you can tell us your name and where you're watching from. Let's take a look at our very first SMS. This is in regards to so far the conversations we've been having. Alvin, you're watching from Bungoma. You say the stumbling block in war against corruption is judiciary. I don't know how we'll bring sanity in the arm of government. Okay.
Sir Nixon Mburu from Kindaruma. First, they are threatened, then apprehended, then prosecuted, then full stop. That's why they don't seem to fear.
Titus, you're watching from Taita. You say mine is to say about corruption. Let those people who are found guilty or with graft should give out rather the exactly total amount of cash lost, and let him or her be in jail. This will help to save our cash.
That's what Kenyans are saying. So varied opinion, and even as you get your voice heard, we hope that you've gotten enumerated. That's the conversation we have up next. That is to do with the census. What has been your experience? You can start by tweeting us or texting us on 22422. The Twitter handle to use is at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Daybreak. Back in a moment with that.